This is my proclamation I received from the city for my community service.
Land Planning Advisory Board, Chair Land Use. Wow.
Yeah. This one was active in NPU. And I was land use chairman. Then we kind of regulate what people did over here. Now they can do whatever. We tired of the service stations that are not selling gas. They're selling drug paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And vape.
So, we talked on the phone, and you were telling me a bit about your story, and you were the first Black woman, or we'd say today maybe woman of color, to work at Alabama Power. Is that right?
That is correct, yes. I worked at Alabama Power in 1965. Well, my name is Loretta Green. I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama. I'm also an Air Force vet. I served in the United States Air Force for 3 years. I came to Atlanta in 1971. I transferred here from Alabama Power to Southern Company. I have one daughter who I adopted, and that's me. Well, I was unemployed at that time. And I had been in the Air Force. I had worked at Brooklyn Air Force Base, and I think by that time they were shutting down, and I needed a job. At that time, they were not really hiring people of color or Black at that time in offices or administrative positions. So I got on the phone, and I started calling around saying, are you hiring a Black person in an administrative position? And I called, at that time, I think it was Snelling and Snelling. It was an employment agent. And the lady was kind of shocked when I said it, I believe, and asked me to come in. And I did go in, and she interviewed me and told me she had a place somewhere that she thought that I would be applicable to apply for. And when she told me it was Alabama Power, I was kind of shocked because I had already given them my resume. Well, it was, because of course when I walked in, everybody was looking, looking at me strangely. I guess wondering what I was doing there. I went in with the mindset that I need a job. I wasn't there to make friends or to socialize. I went in to get a job. At that time, you paid at the window, okay? And I was the relief cashier when the head cashier went on lunch, took a break. I had to relieve her. It was really, it wasn't really funny, but it was interesting because I met all kind of people. I met the ones that said congratulations. All the Black people were happy to see me. They would come in, oh look, thank you, good for you, But then they had the haters that came in and would question whether I gave them the correct change. Some of them would come in there with all the bill money and change and throw it at me, Some would call me names, okay? So it was an interesting experience, but also a hurtful experience at the same time. Because, you didn't think people would treat people the way some of them did me. But like I said, I was there because I needed a job, and I did what I had to do. I mean, like I said, I've had to close down my window. My manager had to come and count because someone said I didn't give them the correct change, which I did, Someone said I'm not giving that so-and-so my money. So it was hurtful at times. But then when people started coming just saying thank you and glad to see you, it took all that away. When I did get the job, I did tell everybody, and everybody said, what? Alabama Power, you're gonna be the first, So they were excited for me. I during that time I had a beautician, and she made sure that did my hair, and she said, "You got to look good every day." So she kept me. She said, "Nope, come in. You got to come in. You got to look good." So they encouraged me and wanted me to go and wanted me to look good and represent. One afternoon, one day I was leaving, and a lady asked me, say, what are you doing on your desk? I'm working overtime. And I said, what? Well, I'm finishing up what's on your desk. I said, you working overtime? And I went to the manager. I said, no one told me anything about overtime. And he said, well, can you type? I said, did you read my resume? Okay. And so they said, well, we'll give you some letters tomorrow, and if you can type them, then you can work. We'll see about giving you overtime. Well, I did the letters perfectly, but what I found out was that if you worked overtime and worked 4 hours, you got to go to it was Morrison, I think it was Morrison cafeteria to eat. So the problem was they didn't want to go eat with me. So they when they decided they had to let me work the overtime, they cut the hours back to 3 hours, and they didn't get dinner. Okay.
For anyone or for just you?
No, for everyone. They cut the hours back to 3 hours, so nobody got to go to eat. I stood up one day, and they were bringing sandwiches, to eat after work, and I just stood up and said, y'all let this black face stop you from getting a hot meal. I stood up and that's what I said. And so the next day, we all went to Morrison. I didn't have to sit with them. That wasn't I wanted overtime. That's what I wanted. So I told them I don't have to sit with you. So it was no problem for me. Southern Company Corporate was just a corporate office. When they moved to Perimeter in '71, that's when they started doing all the billing for Alabama Power Southern Company here in Atlanta. So I moved, most of the people they hired were new hires. I was the only transfer, maybe 1 or 2 people transferred from Georgia Power, but I was one of the few transfers with experience. A supervisor position came open, and I heard about it, and they were going to just put this young black man with no experience with the company, and I told him I wanted to apply. And the manager told me to go back and sit down at my desk and put a smile on my face. That was the answer I got when I said I wanted to apply with my manager. So then I contemplated doing a lawsuit, and I thought about it, and I decided that at that time, to me, Southern Company, to me, was mostly young white males. I don't remember any female. There may have been one female from Georgia Power with a managerial position, but most of the managers were young white males. And I didn't see any future for me at that time, so I decided to leave.
That's when you go to Honeywell?
Yeah, I went to Honeywell. And I stayed there 15 and a half years. And I was the only black there in administration. When I went to Honeywell and had my 6-month review, the manager there told me, the HR guy told me, the manager there told him to put me in the hall. So, and that's what it was in the 70s. And people talk about DEI, but this is what I have to say about DEI. If a black person is hired as a DEI, they're overqualified. They're overqualified. They are scrutinized to the 19th, whatever. You're scrutinized in every way to be sure that you can do the job. Well, I hate what I see now. I hate it because knowing what I went through on my jobs, and the people to talk about DEI like the people you're hiring are not qualified. That somebody just put somebody in a job because of their color, which is totally false. I don't believe that because like I said, I probably was a DEI when I got my job, when the term wasn't DEI. And I know what I went through, and I know that I was qualified. Like I said, I had my resume into every company in Mobile. They didn't even look at it because at that time you had to put on there your race, your ethnicity. You had to check whether you black or white or whatever. So they didn't even look at my resume at Alabama Power. They had the same resume that I gave to Selling and Selling, but they didn't hire me. So that tells you, right now, from the perspective of who you hire, they're saying that, well, now we have equal opportunities to go anywhere and be hired. I don't believe that. I still don't believe it, because of what I've been through. I'm not involved as much now, but when I first came here, I'm very community oriented, and I was very highly involved with NPR, which is in District 11 over here. I work in the community. I still do things in the community. I report code enforcements all the time. Like you said about the environment, I do. I am concerned about, junk cars and things that affect our environment. So I'm still active in the community.
I've got two more things for you, but do you take that? It's okay, I've got a pause.
Sorry about that. No, it's my deacon from my church. He's just checking on me. I call it back.
That's fine. So two more questions.
Cut it off. Hold on. I thought, fletch your pies. I call it back. Dick, I'm good. Okay, like in the summertime, my gas bill, because the only thing I have gas, I believe, is my heat and my hot water tank. In the summertime, my gas bill itself, for gas usage, is like $5. But my total bill is almost $60. There's a pass-through charge, and I think that's for them using the gas lines. I'm not sure exactly what it's for, but it's called a pass-through charge that they have to pay Atlanta Gas Light, I believe it is. And that's about $45 or $60. And I don't understand why that fee is that high. That's ridiculous when my actual usage is only $5, but my bill is $60. Personally, what I would, now this is personally, for the city, for the state, and the county, I would stop property tax on anybody over 80 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. At 80 years old, you shouldn't be paying school property tax.
Right.
Okay.
You did your part.
I did my part. Okay. And I'm about to get a property bill this year. So at 80 years old, I would cut out all property tax for seniors.